What is going on, everybody? In today's video, we're hopping into a full PPR fantasy football mock draft from the 1.9 overall, practicing for a 12-team format with 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end spot, 2 flex spots, and 5 bench spots. I'm going to be going through an awesome draft strategy that I think is going to help you guys put together an amazing 2025 fantasy football squad if you guys are drafting from the 1.9 overall. I do have draft strategy videos from the 1.1 through the 1.8 that I will link down below for you guys, so make sure you guys check those out if you want to see different draft selections, and I will be continuing all the way through to the 1.12. If you guys are new to the channel, this is all we do here all year long: free fantasy football content, redraft, dynasty, and best ball. If you guys are into that, be sure to subscribe. On the way in, without further ado, let's start today's mock draft. So from the 1.9 overall, I think you're in a really good spot. Sometimes these kind of later draft selections in the first round have this kind of bad feel to them, but I think you're in an excellent spot overall because you will see 1 or 2 running backs here with good value, but I think ultimately you're just in a phenomenal spot to draft a stud wide receiver. So whoever ends up being here, you may see guys like CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins could definitely be here, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. If any of those guys are available, I'm completely okay with starting my draft with any of those wide receivers. I prefer Malik Neighbors here. I think Puka Nacua perfectly fine. And like I said, I love Brian Thomas Jr. in this range. I think CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, sometimes Amon-Ra St. Brown will be here as well. I think any of these guys are absolutely fantastic. These kind of end of the first round wide receivers, just phenomenal value, especially in full PPR formats. All right, so moving into the 2.4 overall, kind of a tough decision here because I do think that there's some really good value at the running back position here. I think you could also start this draft with 2 wide receivers because you're going to see guys like maybe Ladd McConkey, who has gone into 2-3 here, but also guys like Drake London, AJ Brown, and even JSN, who just present really, really good value in terms of a wide receiver too. But for me, we're going to be implementing what I call a bounce back strategy. We went wide receiver in the first round. We're going to go running back in the second round. And for now, I'm taking Devon Achane because the upside is just absolutely crazy here. The RB6 are better in fantasy points per games in each of the last 2 fantasy seasons. Way too much upside for me to not take Devon Achane right there. Now, I will say Devon Achane is a player who I'm seeing creep up in overall ADP. So I don't know if he's going to be there come August time at the 2-4, but for now, I'm snatching him there happily. Okay, we went wide receiver in the first, went running back in the second. So generally speaking, I'm going to go back to the wide receiver position, but you could look at the running back position. And if there's a player at the running back position that you think outweighs the value of the current wide receivers on the board, then feel free to go with a running back. I do really like Kyren Williams here. I know some people not as high on Kyren Williams overall, but I think he's a phenomenal value here. But for the purpose of the strategy, let's take our second wide receiver. Could really go with anyone at the top of this tier. Terry McLaurin, MH Jr., Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. We'll stick with Scary Terry. I think MH Jr., a really good value there overall as well. Moving into the 4th round, we're just going to go back to the running back position. And like I said, I do really like Kyren Williams at the end of the 3rd. Great value there. I think James Cook, who ended up going at the end of the 3rd, also good value as we saw Kyren fall into the 4th round. But when I'm looking at the 4th round overall and I'm targeting the running back position, I know I'm drafting at the beginning of the 4th round. Kenneth Walker has been that guy for me. I'm fine with Alvin Kamara here. Maybe even if you wanted to go with rookie Omarion Hampton there, although I'm a little bit more hesitant because I do think Najee Harris is going to get a lot of touches there. But Kenneth Walker is a player, you look at what he did when he was actually healthy last year. Absolutely phenomenal. Just 2 single-digit fantasy performances on the season. And one of those was a game where he got hurt. Double-digit average in terms of fantasy points per game. And this new scheme last year is the scheme that led Alvin Kamara to a really successful fantasy season last year. So I'm all in on Kenneth Walker now at his current ADP. All right, what we want to do here is kind of just continue to implement this strategy, right? Who is the best wide receiver available as we went running back in the last round? But I will say, if there's a running back here that you feel outweighs the value of wide receiver, you could certainly go running back here and then go wide receiver in the 6th round. But we'll take a little bit of upside here with George Pickens. I think if you want to go Ted McMillan here, I like that selection as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and take George Pickens, take that upside in the flex as we approach the 6th round. Now we're just looking to go back to the running back position. Pretty simple here. There are a lot of names you could go with here. I'm going to kind of reach against ADP and go with DeAndre Swift. I do like Isaiah Pacheco in that range. I think you could go with a rookie like Crenshaw Judkins or Travion Henderson. I think Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard are okay as well. But in terms of like drafting my RB3, my guy has been DeAndre Swift, 12.5 fantasy points per game or more in the last 3 seasons. He's a clear-cut RB1 for the Bears. The offensive line improved in the offseason. Better scheme this year under Ben Johnson. I love DeAndre Swift as a potential flex play or an RB2 coming from your bench overall. So DeAndre Swift as an RB3 player that I'm all in on. Okay, now we do want to kind of keep in mind the tight end position as we start to move into this tier, like Johnny Smith, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, although for me, Johnny Smith much lower now that he's in Pittsburgh, but I don't really like to drop past this overall tier. David Njoku included in that as well, but I think we just kind of sit back and let a good value tight end fall to us when we're implementing this strategy. So for me, I'll continue to look to the wide receiver position and start to fill out this bench because, ultimately, if you're playing in a double flex format, full PPR, which are two, styles of formats that have become a lot more popular and typically what I practice for to give you guys the best overall look, the wide receiver position is going to be more important than anything. So I am high on Khalil Shakir at his ADP. This is a player who just got an extension, was very consistent last year. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 single-digit fantasy games. 2 of those came in the fantasy playoffs, so not great there, but ultimately was very consistent last year in full PPR. Bills gave him a contract extension, and there's not really any competition on this team in terms of wide receivers that worries me. So I'm all in on Khalil Shakir at his given ADP. I think he's just a solid flex play throughout the year. Now, I'm very tempted to go tight end here because I just don't want to miss out on that overall tier. There's nobody who kind of like screams amazing value here. We're going to sit back and go with that late round quarterback in this strategy. So let's take Evan Ingram off the board. I feel like I take Evan Ingram in every single fantasy draft I do, but he's just that tight end that I'm kind of targeting because I don't like to spend early draft capital on tight end. I like to sit back and get a good value in the draft. And Evan Ingram, I think, is going to have an excellent season. So we'll take Ingram off the board here. And then now we're just going to look to fill out at least 3 of these 4 additional bench spots. We'll eventually target a late round quarterback and really just go with the best available player. We could take Zach Charbonnet and just lock up that Seattle backfield. I don't have any problem with that. And kind of this tier of running back Charbonnet, Jordan Mason, Tajay Spears, Rashad White, and even maybe Tank Bigsby, I'm completely okay with. Then we look at the wide receiver position. There's not a ton of upside here, but I do think that there are good selections with guys like Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs, Darnell Mooney at the top of the available players. So whoever you like here, I'm completely fine with. We'll go ahead and take Darnell Mooney. He's somebody who's starting to creep up a little bit in terms of ADP, and I like him in terms of a potential flex play. Still averaged double-digit fantasy points per game last year. I know he's a bit boomer bust, but there were some nice double-digit performances. Nearly 1,000 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, and we should expect better quarterback play this year with Michael Penix instead of what we got out of Kirk Cousins last year. So now we're going to just take a look once again who is the best available player. But I'll tell you guys one thing. I'm going to reach against ADP and go J.K. Dobbins here because I'm seeing J.K. Dobbins go in redraft format drafts anywhere between the 9th and the 11th round. His ADP's kind of all over the place. And really, even on Underdog Fantasy, I'm seeing J.K. Dobbins ADP overall just all over the place. So if you want J.K. Dobbins, you have to go out and get him. And I think he's an excellent RB4 to take off of the board. We could go, once again, I'm just going to go with the best available player for these next 2 selections and take a late round quarterback. And I'll talk about quarterback in a second here. And I really think Rashad White is the best available player. I get it. Listen, if you guys have been following the channel, you know the reasons why I like Rashad White at his ADP. There are a lot of you guys out there who agree with why I like Rashad White at his ADP, and there's still a lot of naysayers for Rashad White, but we're drafting him in the 11th round as our RB5. There's absolutely no risk here, and even if you're not in on Rashad White in terms of standalone value, he's an excellent handcuff at this point in the draft. So let's take the best available wide receiver here, and I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman. Still had some really nice games last year. Once again, a boomer bust player, but we're looking for flex plays in the 12th round. And this is the wide receiver 2 on the Ravens. So I'm all in on Rashad Bateman at his ADP. Then we're just going to wrap up with the quarterback. Listen, when you guys are doing these mocks and you're mocking with the computer, a lot of these teams are not going to take 2 quarterbacks. And the ADP of quarterbacks completely pushed up here. You're probably not going to see Josh Allen or Lamar Lamar Jackson gone until the third round. You're not going to see these teams taking Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott, taking Jared Goff and Kyler Murray, Bo Nix and Justin Fields, Patrick Mahomes and JJ McCarthy, et cetera, et cetera. So when you guys implement these strategies, even if you go quarterback in the 10th, 11th, or 12th round, you're still going to be able to get a better value than what you guys are seeing on the screen. So I'm not freaking out here. And we'll just go with Trevor Lawrence here. Do like him with, a new offensive system going into the year. But really, any of those quarterbacks that you guys saw available are completely fine. And we will play the waiver wire for quarterback. It doesn't concern me. I know that you're missing out on like the extreme upside of a guy like Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen, whatever it may be, even a lot of consistency out of guys like Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. But listen, guys, there are still year in, year out top 10 fantasy quarterbacks who never get drafted in the actual draft, or guys who just completely outperform their ADP. Think about Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold last year. Think about guys like Bo Nix, Jared Goff, right? I do not panic at the quarterback position. Let's load up on those skill position players and move forward. All right, here is a look at the final team from the 1.9 overall. T-Law at quarterback, Evan Ingram at tight end, now on two different teams. I'm fine with that. We have consistency at both positions. Maybe not the most upside, but I'm good with those two guys with this given strategy. Let's look at the running backs. Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad White. I'm completely content with that running back room. We have everything that we need. A good mix of both safe floors and very good ceilings, good upside, right? Wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, Khalil Shakir, Darnell Mooney, and Rashad Bateman. Once again, good consistency for a wide receiver 1 and 2 spots, plenty of upside with Neighbors and McLaurin. Good overall flex options in George Pickens, Khalil Shakir. While they may be more of like dart throw type wide receivers, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, still a nice upside, even if it's a little bit more up and down. So there you guys have it. And this is really close to what I did in terms of a strategy from the 1.7 and the 1.8, and probably will be for the 1.10 as well. But like I said, I will have those other draft strategy videos linked down below for you guys, and we're going to continue all the way through the 1.12. Then I'm going to repeat this series of videos in August just so you guys have more up-to-date draft strategy videos. So there you guys have it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe on the way out for free fantasy football content, redraft, dynasty, and best ball all year long. And of course, if you guys have any fantasy football questions whatsoever, drop in the comments down below. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I possibly can. And with that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.